well, if it isn't Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm surprised it's taken me this long to get around to talking about you. I mean, you're one of the longest running video game series of all time, and have gone from being one of the most popular and well respected franchises in the gaming industry to being one of the biggest sources of jokes and mockery on the internet. Most people who love Sonic the Hedgehog love him for his classic 2D adventures on the SEGA Mega Drive, or Genesis if you live in America. Not only because they're some of the best 2D platformers ever created, but a lot of people grew up with these games, and to them, these games are a part of their childhood and are cherished memories. Well, because I didn't have a SEGA Mega Drive growing up, my first taste of the Sonic the Hedgehog series was both Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 on the SEGA DreamCast. These games were the franchise's first true jump into the third dimension, and even to this day, many people have fond memories of playing these games. Hell, a lot of people say that after the Adventure series, the franchise went completely downhill. Well, at least for a while it did. But even with the franchise being the very definition of a roller coaster, both of these classics are games I'll always have time to play and are some of my favourite childhood games and memories. Have they stood the test of time? No, not really. I mean, there are aspects of these games that have serious flaws to them in retrospect, and many reviewers online like Some Call Me Johnny and Pro Jared have pointed out that these games have not aged well. Even still, I love playing these games to this day, and even though they're not as good as the classic 2D Sonic games, as well as some of the more recent Sonic games like Colors and Generations, they're still loads of fun and in my opinion, some of the best games in the series as a whole. But which of the two is better? Well, that's what we're here to find out, as these games go head to head to see which of the two is the true ultimate life form. Now, like with the first episode of 3FORALL, I'm going to be judging these games on 7 different categories: story and characters, gameplay and level design, graphics and art style, music or soundtrack, boss battles, difficulty, and finally, replay value. How this scoring system will work is that I will award first place in each category 2 points and second place only gets 1 point, and whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. And with that all cleared up, let us blast through with Sonic speed and take a trip down memory lane, because it's time to see which game is the true Sonic adventure. And without further ado, get a load of this! In terms of story and characters, the Sonic Adventure series is where the franchise began to lean towards a slightly more realistic and serious tone, and this is evidenced through both of these games' stories. Neither story is anything amazing or something to write home about, but for simple platformers about a super fast blue hedgehog, they certainly get the job done. Sonic Adventure's story is told from the perspective of 6 characters you play as, with each one shedding further light on the story as a whole, as well as getting backstory on the current situation thanks to this ball of light known as Carl. The story begins with our hero Sonic the Hedgehog jumping the rooftops of Station Square just being himself and enjoying the nighttime sky. But then chaos ensues when a being named, well, Chaos, suddenly appears and attacks the police. After Sonic gives it a good old bop in the head and rescues Tails from Emerald Coast, the two run into Dr. Eggman, who after getting his ass handed to him, steals one of the Chaos Emeralds and feeds it to Chaos, who becomes stronger with each emerald it absorbs. From then on out, Sonic and Tails' journey revolves around them trying to stop Eggman from collecting all of the Chaos Emeralds and defeating Chaos, with Tails' storyline being much more personal and focuses on him becoming more independent and sticking up for himself. Knuckles' storyline revolves around the Master Emerald being shattered one night and Chaos emerging from it, causing Angel Island to fall into the ocean, and Knuckles makes it his goal to retrieve all the pieces of the Master Emerald and put a stop to Chaos as well. Amy's story revolves around her bumping into a bird that is being chased by one of Eggman's robots. After being captured, she befriends the robot E102 Gamma, who helps her escape, and her goal is to reunite the bird with its family. The robot Gamma's story starts with him being Eggman's puppet and just following orders, but after befriending Amy and seeing the other E-Series being destroyed, he decides to go rogue and rescue the other E-Series robots. Finally, Big the Cat's story is that his frog has gone missing and he wants it back. That's it. Thrilling, isn't it? Sonic Adventure 2's story has you follow both the heroes and villains, and is less about the individual but rather the overarching story as a whole, since it starts out with Eggman finding a secret weapon which turns out to be none other than Shadow the Hedgehog, who promises Eggman total conquest if he acquires all 7 Chaos Emeralds so that they can power the Eclipse Cannon, a weapon capable of destroying an entire planet that was built by Eggman's grandfather Gerald Robotnik. Along with the help of Rouge the Bat, who is a treasure hunter, the 3 of them set out to claim all the Chaos Emeralds and conquer the world, while Rouge is secretly also a government spy, but her main purpose is to get the Master Emerald before Knuckles does, which he shattered after Eggman tried to steal it. As the villains begin to run amok and collect all the Chaos Emeralds, Sonic the Hedgehog is mistakenly arrested by the police, thinking him to be Shadow, because you know, these two are clearly identical. Anyway, after being captured, Tails and Amy go to rescue Sonic, and from then on out, the heroes make it their goal to stop the villains from activating the Eclipse Cannon and destroying the world. Both of these games have interesting stories, well, at least for Sonic games, and they also have both high and low points for the new characters they introduced. But in terms of which is better, I'm going to go with Adventure 2. Overall, I find Adventure 2 to have the more interesting and engaging story. Granted, yes, the story does have a lot of plot holes that people have pointed out, but as a whole, I rather enjoy the story of Adventure 2, since you really feel that the world was at stake this time, and the narrative as a whole is entertaining to sit through. Sonic Adventure has a much simpler and straightforward story, which is easier to follow, but the story just wasn't as interesting to me. Not to mention that although each storyline works for the individual characters, when combining all the stories together in order to form a sound narrative, it becomes incredibly disjointed, since I felt that Big, Gamma and Amy have almost nothing to do with the story at large, or the events surrounding Chaos, which makes them feel like they kind of shoehorned them in. I mean, each of their stories are fine by themselves, especially Gamma's, but as a whole, Adventure 1's story is just kind of there. Also, Adventure 2 added the better characters to the franchise, since even though I'm not the biggest fan of Rouge the Bat, I love Shadow the Hedgehog. I mean, yes, as the years went by, he became steadily worse, but in this game, Shadow is pretty much the best character, thanks to his no-nonsense badass attitude and a very well done backstory, making him one of the most complex and fleshed out characters in the Sonic universe. Sonic Adventure does add some good characters like Chaos, Tikal and E102 Gamma, who is definitely one of the strongest characters in the Sonic universe, but unfortunately it also adds Big the Cat, who is one of the worst characters in the Sonic universe. I mean, he's just a big dumb cat who loves fishing. And that's it. Honestly, you could have taken Big out of the story and nothing of value would have been lost. Trust me. So the winner of the first round is Sonic Adventure 2. Now, being the first truly 3D Sonic games, not only did these games transition from simple 2D platformers to more action-oriented 3D platformers, but they also added various new gameplay styles to certain characters in order to have a more diverse and overall unique experience. Some of them work and some of them don't, but let's see which of the two hold up better. I will say beforehand that all these games control really well, and to this day these games have some of the best control out of all 3D Sonic games. Sonic Adventure has 6 different gameplay styles, one for each character you play as. Sonic's gameplay is the fast-paced, high-speed action we all know and love, only now in 3D. With that said, Sonic now has his trademark homing attack by his side, which was originally a Sonic 3D Blast when you got the Gold Shield, but now you can do it naturally on a whim, which is a godsend when dealing with enemies, and his levels are very much get to the goal ring. Simple, straightforward, and fun, just the way it should be. Tails' levels are a case of racing Sonic or Eggman to the goal ring, very much akin to a time trial or beat the clock mode you see in most racing games. What makes Tails unique though is that he can fly across large parts of the stage and take various shortcuts, so his stages are similar to Sonic's, only they aren't as long but are much more of a rush to play through. Knuckles' gameplay is about finding 3 pieces of the Master Emerald in each stage, and using Knuckles' gliding mechanics and climbing skills to do so. Amy's gameplay is like Sonic's, only she is much slower, and the levels are about her having to escape the robot Zero that's chasing you, with a much larger focus on standard platforming rather than high-speed action. Gamma's gameplay is all about destroying as many enemies as possible in order to keep the timer from reaching 0 and defeating the boss at the end of the stage. And finally, Big's gameplay involves him fishing. Don't worry, I'll get onto that later. Adventure 2 also has 6 characters. However, because of the Hero and Dark Side storyline, both Sonic and Shadow, Tails and Eggman, and Knuckles and Rouge share the same gameplay styles. Sonic and Shadow are, as you may have guessed, high-speed action and platforming, only this time with new moves like rail grinding and things like the somersault in order to fit through tight spaces. Eggman and Tails have shooting levels similar to Gamma's, only without a time limit and having a bigger focus on destroying as much as possible rather than beating levels within a time limit. Now, why Tails is in a mech instead of just running around, I'll never know, but regardless, both of these two are basically Gamma 2.0. Knuckles and Rouge are all about emerald hunting from the first game, only severely neutered thanks to the butchered radar system. since in the first game the radar would change colour depending on how far away you were from an emerald piece, and it could detect all 3 pieces at once. Adventure 2, for some stupid reason, only lets you detect one at a time and won't let you detect the next one until you've found the one the game wants you to find, which feels like the most unnecessary handicap ever. In regards to level design, Sonic Adventure has 11 stages and 3 hub worlds. Each of the characters will go through a select number of these stages, and between levels they'll explore the hub worlds for upgrades and other stuff. Now, most people cannot stand hub worlds in Sonic games thanks to how poorly they were done in both Sonic Unleashed and Sonic 06, but in the case of Sonic Adventure, I like these hub worlds, since they're easy to travel through, and with characters like Sonic, Tails and Knuckles, they can be a lot of fun to explore using their unique abilities, and you get a great sense of speed and freedom just running around these open areas with no enemies or obstacles. In terms of the stages themselves, the game may be small when it comes to the number of stages, but the quality put into these levels is fantastic. Okay, aside from Skydeck and Hot Shelter, the remaining 9 stages are some of the best levels in any Sonic game. Emerald Coast, Twinkle Park, Red Mountain, Final Egg and Speed Highway are such fun levels to travel through. They are very well designed with fun platforming challenges, as well as lots of alternate routes and secrets for you to find and unlock, and they always make for a good time no matter how many times I play them. At least for Sonic, Tails, Knuckles and Gamma. Yes, because all the characters share the same levels, certain characters either don't translate well into these levels, or the levels don't work well with these characters' types of gameplay. For instance, in the case of Amy, levels like Final Egg and Twinkle Park are rather big and open, which is ideal for Sonic since he's fast, but for Amy it becomes a pain to travel through these levels because she's so slow. And now for the major complaint with Sonic Adventure, and easily the worst thing about it, Big's fishing stages. Just why, Sega? Just why? I mean, shooting and emerald hunting aren't exactly high-speed platforming, but they're still based around action and adventure. What does fishing have to do with a Sonic game? Seriously? I mean, these levels are just so boring and don't add anything to the game whatsoever, since all you do is find the spot where Froggy is, sit on your ass and fish. Just why did you decide to do this, Sega? I hate the fishing stages. I mean, I hate them, and I'm glad they never did anything like this again. Sonic Adventure 2 is much more linear in terms of level design and progression, since the game ditches the hub worlds entirely and each character has stages specifically designed for them rather than them having 11 stages shared amongst 6 characters. In this case, the game has a total of 31 stages, not including the hidden level at the end. Now this may sound great, but it's a case of quantity over quality, since overall, I'd say 1/3 of the stages are really good, 1/3 of them are mediocre, and the final third just fucking suck. As a whole, I'd say the level design is pretty good, but not as good as Adventure 1 in terms of quality, since even though levels like City Escape, Green Forest, Cosmic Wall, Pumpkin Hill, Meteor Herd, yes, I like Meteor Herd, Radical Highway and White Jungle are great levels to travel through, they're not as good as levels like Twinkle Park and Speed Highway, since they're not as open-ended but are rather more fast-paced and straightforward. Not to mention stages like Sand Ocean, Hidden Base, Aquatic Mine, Death Chamber, Mission Street, and especially Mad Space are crap levels, and the rest of them are just kinda there. I mean, they get the job done, but nothing else really. In terms of which is better, well, while Sonic Adventure may have the more high quality levels and has overall better speed, shooting, and emerald hunting than Adventure 2, it's only 2/3 of the game. You still have to do Amy's levels and Big's levels, and they're worse than anything Adventure 2 has to offer. I mean, Adventure 2, while not being as strong as Adventure 1 in certain areas, is overall a more enjoyable experience thanks to there only being 3 gameplay styles and that each character has their own level to travel through, which helps to give the levels more variety. Sure, the emerald hunting, shooting and Sonic stages are worse than Adventure 2, but I still enjoy them as a whole, whereas I only enjoyed 2/3 of Adventure 1. Yes, I may enjoy those 2/3 more in contrast than what Adventure 2 has to offer, but when it comes to the overall experience, I find Adventure 2 to be better gameplay wise, since there isn't any moment in Adventure 2 where I just want to put the controller down and stop playing. That's not the case with Adventure 1, because Big and Amy's levels just put me to sleep and bore me to tears. Even some of the worst levels in Adventure 2 never make me want to stop playing the game. So close, but the winner of this round is once again Sonic Adventure 2. graphically speaking, I feel these games look good for Sega Dreamcast game standards, and they did an admirable job of taking the 2D world of Sonic the Hedgehog and converting it into 3D. Everything is very distinct, bright, colourful, and I think the in-game character models represent the characters just fine. Granted, these games have some major issues when it comes to the presentation, since during cutscenes, Sonic Adventure has terrible animations and character movement, as well as really awkward lip movement to go along with it. And this isn't the case of it being on a Dreamcast. Like Some Call Me Johnny said, the Crash Bandicoot series did it much better on a less powerful console, so what's this game's excuse? Adventure 2 doesn't get off scot-free either, since though the main character models look good, the human characters look just awful, and the less said about the pre-rendered cutscenes the better. When it comes to which one looks better overall, I'm going to go with Adventure 1, mainly for how the levels and hub worlds look. I feel Adventure 1 did a better job of capturing the look and feel of the 16-bit games better than Adventure 2 did, since stages like Casinopolis, Final Egg, Emerald Coast, Ice Cap and Twinkle Park just feel so Sonic the Hedgehog. And each stage has a sense of charm to it that not many other Sonic games have. Also, I really like the look and feel of the hub worlds. I mean, they're not as visually appealing as the main levels, but they have this atmosphere to them which makes exploring them all the more exciting, especially in the case of the Mystic Ruins. Sonic Adventure 2, despite having more levels, most of them are either some sort of city level, a desert level, a space level, or a military level, and because of this, a lot of the levels just blend into one another. I mean, there are some standout levels like Final Rush, Green Forest, Radical Highway, City Escape, and Pumpkin Hill, but overall they don't have the same type of charm that the levels in Adventure 1 do, so the winner of this round is Sonic Adventure 1. Sonic Adventure wins this round hands down. Out of all the Sonic games I've played, this one definitely has the best soundtrack. I mean, when it comes to Sonic the Hedgehog, pretty much all of these games have at least good soundtracks. Even some of the worst games like Sonic 06, that game still had an awesome soundtrack. What makes Sonic Adventure's soundtrack so good is the amount of variety it has. I mean, this soundtrack has so much different music that covers so many different genres and fits every single level theme and set piece so well that this soundtrack is easily the best part about Sonic Adventure. Whether it's level themes, character themes, cutscene music, or boss music, Sonic Adventure's soundtrack is just incredible and is up there with some of the best gaming soundtracks of all time. I'm serious, it's that good. Sonic Adventure 2's soundtrack doesn't even compare to Adventure 1's, but it still has its merits. Unlike Adventure 1's soundtrack, Adventure 2 has mostly rock music, and as such, the soundtrack doesn't have nearly as much variety to it. Granted, I do love rock music, but variety is the spice of life, people. If variety didn't matter in life, then I would just stick to making only Fire Emblem videos, though I imagine that's what a lot of you want me to do. Adventure 2 also has a very hit and miss soundtrack, since when there's a song I don't like in Adventure 2, I really don't like it. Since most of Knuckles' music I cannot stand because it's some of the corniest rap you could ever hear, and a lot of other tracks just kind of blend in and really don't leave any sort of impression on me. But when the soundtrack in Adventure 2 gets good, it gets really fucking good. I mean, there are certain tracks in Adventure 2 that stand out like nothing else for just how great they are and are some of the most loved songs in the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Songs like Pumpkin Hill, City Escape, Prison Lane, Radical Highway, the theme of Eggman, Throw It All Away, man, just such great music. And of course there's the main theme of the game, Live and Learn, which is without question the best song in the entire Sonic the Hedgehog series. I don't know what Crush 40 did, but holy shit did they make one of the best songs I've ever heard in a Sonic game, or a video game for that matter, and to this day this is the song people associate modern Sonic with because holy shit it's just that good. One last thing to address sound-wise is the voice acting. Now personally, I feel both these games do a decent job with the voice acting despite some hiccups along the way, and it never gets to the point in which it hurts my ears, unlike the voices in Shadow the Hedgehog.
You know what they say, the more the merrier.
Shut the fuck up! I will say that overall Adventure 2 has the better voice acting, but holy shit, the sound mixing in this game is just atrocious. I mean, just listen to this cutscene and see how many audio issues you come across, or hell, try to make sense of anything amongst all this noise.
Is everyone alright? We should be landing soon.
The hatch doors are
Don't
open.
sweat it, Knuckles. The only thing in the cargo bay are those
What do you
master
mean, don't
emeralds.
sweat it?
Right?
Land the
Knock
shuttle
it
and
off,
let me
Knuckles.
out.
We're gonna crash this thing if you keep that up.
So yeah, Adventure 2 may have some amazing tracks, but that's only around half of the soundtrack, whereas Adventure 1's entire soundtrack is a thing of beauty, and as such, the winner of this round is Sonic Adventure. In terms of boss fights, none of these games have outstanding or amazing boss fights, but they get the job done for better or for worse. Sonic Adventure has 3 types of boss battles: fights against the different forms of chaos, fights against Dr. Eggman or one of his mechs, and the rest are fights against the other characters. Sonic Adventure 2 also has 3 types of boss battles, those being fights against the different gun robots, fights against the rival characters, and fights against whatever the game throws at you. In terms of which is better, I'm going to say Adventure 2 wins this round, and this is mainly due to the character battles. Let me start by saying that character battles in Adventure 1 are a fucking joke. I mean, these fights require no effort to win whatsoever, since the AI just stands there and does nothing, and even when they do decide to move, all they really do is run around in circles. Granted, Adventure 2 isn't that much better, since most of the character battles are rather awkward because of either poor camera angles or having to fight in very close quarters, but at least this time the bosses are actively attacking you and present some form of a challenge. I will say one major plus Adventure 2 has is the final fight between Sonic and Shadow. It's fast paced, action packed, atmospheric, and it's the type of fight you'd want these two characters to have. Concerning everything else, Sonic Adventure does have some good Eggman boss battles, like the Egg Viper and the Egg Walker, and the fights against E101 Beta Mark II is a lot of fun, and I like the fights against Chaos 2, 6, and Perfect Chaos as well. But every other boss fight in Sonic Adventure is either really forgettable or just plain boring. I'm looking at you, Chaos 4! Sonic Adventure 2 has more standout battles, like the fights with the different gun robots, the battle with the Egg Golem, and the fight with the Bio Lizard, despite the frustration that comes with it. So the winner of this round is Sonic Adventure 2. Difficulty-wise, none of these games are too hard, and for the most part, the difficulty scales naturally along with the game, so there should never be a point of the game which becomes so hard it makes you want to rip your controller in half. With that said, I feel Sonic Adventure is better difficulty-wise, because the increase in difficulty is done very well and is consistent throughout the course of the game. The levels and boss fights start out easy, but naturally as you progress, they get harder and harder in order to further test your skills and present unique challenges. This goes for all the characters, and overall Sonic Adventure is a very well balanced game that never gets too much for the player. Sonic Adventure 2 is pretty good difficulty wise for the most part, and you can definitely feel the game's pushing your skills with all the different characters the further you go on in the game. But Adventure 2 has moments where the difficulty just spikes up during certain levels, which makes certain moments in Adventure 2 really annoying to deal with. Granted, it's only a small amount of these levels that have these difficulty spikes, but trust me, when you run into them, they become very noticeable and very annoying. The best examples I can give are Sand Ocean before you get the hovering ability, Eternal Engine because of all those artificial chaos, Crazy Gadgets because fuck gravity-based platforming before Mario Galaxy got it right, Mad Space because fuck Mad Space! And finally the fight with the Bio Lizard because it's really easy to fall into the water that will kill you if you don't jump out quick enough. Another annoying thing about Adventure 2 was that it was the first game to introduce the ranking system. Yes, the thing every Sonic game needs to have nowadays, which ranks you on your performance in each level, and in order to get the best rank in each level, you have to beat the game without dying, collecting as many rings as possible, getting as many score multipliers as you can, destroying every enemy in your path, and doing it all while going really fast. Well, that doesn't sound too easy, and trust me, it isn't. I mean, you don't have to get A ranks in all the levels if you want to just beat the main adventure, but they're a big part of the post game, which I will talk about in a second. So the winner of this round is Sonic Adventure. Now both of these games have quite a bit of content after beating the main quest in order to add more hours of gameplay. Sonic Adventure has you collecting all 130 emblems by completing levels again only with different objectives, doing mini games like Twinkle Circuit or finding them in the hub world, and if you're playing Sonic Adventure DX on the GameCube, you can tackle mission mode, which grants you SEGA Game Gear games for beating a certain amount of missions. Sonic Adventure 2 has you collecting all 180 emblems, 50 more than Adventure 1, and this is done by tackling all the levels again, only this time with 4 additional objectives in each level, playing kart racing or doing boss rushes. I'll say that it's much easier and quicker to get all the emblems in Adventure 1, since you only have 2 additional objectives to complete in each level rather than 4, and getting the emblems via the mini games and hub world is rather straightforward, especially when compared to Adventure 2, where getting all of the emblems can be rather difficult, since the last mission in every stage is to clear the hard mode of that stage, and then there are those fucking race car levels where you have to beat them while not running into any cars or worse, any walls, and you have to get a fucking A rank in the process, which is really fucking annoying to do. Trust me, I've been there and it is not pleasant. By the sounds of things, you'd think I'd pick Adventure as the winner of this round, but strangely enough, no. I think Adventure 2 has the better replay value. Yes, it's more frustrating to deal with, but Adventure 2 has better replay value for 4 reasons. Number 1, even though you have to complete each of the levels 4 more times with different objectives, some of which are really annoying, I'd rather put up with that than having to deal with Big's extra missions, which revolve around you having to catch a fish that weighs over a certain amount, and then catch Froggy. And trust me, it is the most boring and tedious thing you could ever do in a Sonic game. I'm sorry, but I'll gladly play those race car levels and Mad Space over this shit any day. Secondly, is that by getting all the emblems in Adventure mode, you unlock a Metal Sonic skin for Sonic, which is cool and all. I mean, I love Metal Sonic, in fact he's my favourite character in the Sonic universe, but all it is a reskin and nothing else. Sonic Adventure 2 not only rewards you with a 3D version of Green Hill Zone from the original Sonic the Hedgehog, but also gets you additional costumes and vehicles for Sonic and friends in the multiplayer mode, which brings me to my third point, multiplayer. Out of all the Sonic games I've played, Adventure 2 Battle easily has the best multiplayer. I swear, I used to play this all the time with my friends and family growing up, and we had so much fun with it. Whether it's racing through the city or shooting the ever-loving shit out of each other, Adventure 2 Battle was a great time with multiplayer. In fact, this, Smash Bros. Melee, Mario Kart Double Dash, Mario Party 4, Soul Calibur 2, Mario Power Tennis and Time Splitters 2 were my go-to games for multiplayer on the GameCube. And finally, reason number 4 is that in order to get some of the emblems to complete both adventure games, you need to complete the events in the Chow Garden. Ah yes, the Chow Garden. This is something everyone loves about the Adventure series, and some people even like the Chow Garden more than the main game. The garden is like a 3D version of Tamagotchi, where you can raise and train your Chow up by feeding them fruit and giving them animals and chaos drives in order to increase their stats and skills, and by raising it up enough levels you can have it compete in various events. This is what puts Adventure 2 in the winning seat, since the Chow Garden in that game is so much better than the one in Adventure 1. I mean, the Chow Garden in Adventure 1 isn't bad, and I really like the Chow music, but the Chow Garden is just so basic and the events they have are just as basic. Adventure 2's Chow Garden is far more fleshed out and well designed, allowing your Chow to become customizable. There are various new breeds of Chow, both Chow Racing and Chow Karate, with the Chow Racers having much more interesting courses to play through. Overall, the Chow Garden in Adventure 2 is much better than Adventure 1's, so the winner of this round is Sonic Adventure 2. In the end, both of these games mark Sonic's first leap into the third dimension. They were both very ambitious titles that added various new elements to the series, and while not all of these elements worked in retrospect, I still find them to be really good games and I think they're milestones for the series as a whole. Sonic Adventure definitely feels more akin to the early 16-bit games, with the Sonic and Tails levels in terms of gameplay and level design, and the Knuckles and Gamma levels, while not as good, are still fun to play through and help to add more variety to the game. Add to this an amazing soundtrack and atmosphere that is yet to be matched by any 3D Sonic game, and Sonic Adventure is a great time. At least 2/3 of it is. Yes, while I love Sonic, Tails, Knuckles and Gamma's levels, I can't say that I enjoy Amy or Big's levels, because I don't, and they're the levels I never go back to unless I have to in order to complete the game when I decide to play through it from scratch. That's not the case with Adventure 2, since even though Adventure feels more like a Sonic game and the speed, shooting and treasure levels are better in Adventure 1, I don't have to deal with either really slow and boring platforming or worse, fishing. There's never a point in Adventure 2 where I want to stop playing the game. Yes, there are moments which can frustrate me to no end, but that doesn't compare to the boredom of dealing with Amy and Biggs levels. I mean, you could argue the Sonic levels in Adventure are much more fun and the game looks and sounds more like a Sonic game, which it does, don't get me wrong. But I'd much rather be playing a game that is overall good rather than a game that is 2/3 great, 1/3 shit. Add to this the fact that Adventure 2 still has some awesome and fun levels, a soundtrack that has some incredible tunes, lots of replay value, awesome multiplayer, and the best version of the Chow Garden, and the winner and overall better game is Sonic Adventure 2. Thank you all for joining me on this episode of Free For All. I've been CrashX500, and in case some of you did not know, I just recently broke 2,000 subscribers. I just cannot believe this, since not only did I celebrate my channel reaching 1,000 subscribers, but in such a short amount of time, I doubled that many subs. Once again, thank all of you so much for showing all your support for my videos. Without your words of encouragement, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I'm just so happy that over 2,000 people love the videos I make. Naturally, to mark such an occasion, my next video is going to be a Fire Emblem related video. However, this time it's not going to be a countdown. Oh no! This time it's going to be something much more interesting, since I felt it's time that Free For All got its own shot at the Fire Emblem series, so the next time we meet, the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem games are going to go head to head to see which is the best of the best. This includes Fire Emblem Blazing Sword, Sacred Stones, and yes, Fire Emblem The Binding Blade.